We're looking at the CO2 emissions that our industry is involved with, and we really need to find solutions to generate the zero carbon products that consumers and the market want. We really are going to take this as a new concept to a much broader audience, hopefully win versus the other competing mining projects in this space.
Why do you see it as positive? Isn't this going to be distracting for your main task, which is to get your project up and running? Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. First of all, thanks so much for watching this video. If you like it, give us a thumbs up. Helps us to understand which companies you think we should spend our time, money and effort on for you. And of course, do leave your comments below. That helps us understand the sort of questions you think we should be asking, how you think we've done, of course, what you thought of the company. And you can also catch this as a transcription, article or podcast on cruxinvestor.com. And for our Crux Club members, you get early access to this video. And if you haven't already done so, please click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, for more videos like this, click the notification bell. We caught up earlier today with Mark Selby, CEO of Nickel Corp. They're listed on the TSX-V. We talked to him today about a press release that came out talking about NetZero. NetZero is a trademark that they've applied for. It's also a company which they've set up, NetZero Metals. What's it about? Is it a gimmick? Is it a game? He tells us it's actually a little bit more serious than that. Off the back of Elon Musk's quarterly last week, where he talks about buying up all the nickel available if it can be produced in a green and sustainable and efficient way. This is maybe a different way of looking at the marketplace. The difference between clean nickel and dirty nickel, sulphide nickel versus laterite nickel. What will the funds say? Well, we discuss a variety of other parts of this discussion argument. Take a look in the description below. If there's anything that interests you in particular, click on the number beside that topic, and that's got a timestamp, and that'll jump you to that part of the video. Otherwise, enjoy what Mark has to say. Mark Selby, how are you, sir?
Good, thanks. Mr. Gordon, how are you?
Well, it feels like only yesterday we spoke, but I suspect that's our Nickel Insight weekly session.
There you go. The weeks do kind of merge together these days when you're at home with COVID.
Yeah, they do rather. But today we're talking to you with your Canada Nickel Corporation hat on, because I saw press release. You're talking about NetZero Metals. What is it? Is it some kind of gimmick? What is it?
No, it's we had this in the works the last few months. What we realized is we're in a pretty unique position where, we have the rocks that make up 90% of our deposit actually naturally absorb CO2 when exposed to air. We're in a region where all the electricity is hydroelectric power, so any electricity that you use in the mining process is zero carbon. And we're in an area that actually has a long history of doing downstream processing in the region. So we can actually build a downstream processing plant, which is often where a lot of these emissions are generated, and take advantage of the fact that our waste rock and tailings should be able to soak up that CO2. So when you step back and look at it, you go, oh, okay, you know what? We can actually deliver zero carbon material, zero carbon nickel, zero carbon cobalt, and zero carbon iron. And Mr. Musk's tweet last week really drove that home in terms of, they need environmentally sensitive nickel, and it's not a 2050 issue, it's a today issue.
So, but again, I need to dig deeper than that, because those factors have always been there in your project. Why now? What attention are you trying to draw? Is it just trying to draw attention to Canada Nickel Corp, or is there something bigger to it than this?
No, I think at the end of the day, again, in a past life, it's realized that Dumont could be that. So now that I'm running my own show, realizing that this is possible, and it's to step back and really, this is the thing the mining industry should be doing. I think what the industry needs to realize is there's an ever larger number of people, larger consumers, who look at CO2 emissions, the same way, we did looking back in the 70s and 80s when, a lot of mining companies and industrial companies in general used to think, just dump the gas in the air, dump the liquid waste down the stream. That's great. We've got a stream that'll just carry it away for us. We don't have to worry about it. And we look back and we think, oh, that was so horrible. But there's a whole new group of consumers who are looking at the CO2 emissions that our industry is involved with, not just generating ourselves, but the products that we make. And we really need to find solutions to generate the zero carbon products that these consumers and the market needs.
So, I mean, Elon Musk, he did come up with that statement last week, and that's had a massive effect on price of nickel, your share price, and it's got people's attention, looking towards nickel. But you've got a nickel sulphide project, and we have talked in some of our weekly insight sessions around, laterites, and we've done one show on sort of dirty nickel. So he's kind of helped people understand that he will invest in nickel projects if they are sustainable, if they're done in an environmentally friendly way. I mean, aren't they all environmentally friendly? I mean, as far as mining goes?
No, I mean, that's the big, that we sort of alluded to in different things. I mean, nickel has a dirty nickel issue. The bulk of the growth over the last 5 years and where the bulk of the growth is going forward has come from, nickel pig iron projects in Indonesia. And, to make ferronickel, to make nickel pig iron, you use a huge amount of electricity. And all those projects are using coal-fired electricity to generate it all. So when each one of those projects is using somewhere in the order of 25 to 30 tons of coal to make 1 ton of nickel. That in turn is 90 tons of CO2 emissions per ton of nickel. So all of a sudden you take 50 kilos of that kind of nickel or nickel that's related to that, and all of a sudden you're strapping 4 tons of CO2 to the Tesla that's got 50 kilos of nickel under the bottom. I'm not sure that's what, Elon Musk had in mind when he was, wanting to build Tesla to sort of change our impact on the environment. And again, consumers don't want to, buy a car and end up having a whole pile of CO2 that comes, that comes along with it. So, the fact that, that's where he went to, immediately after saying we need as much as we can, as soon as we can is really dry, that is a fundamental issue for them, that they just can't get clean enough nickel to meet their objectives.
Okay. So basically, Indonesians, Chinese, they don't care. They can get funding wherever. So what about laterite projects outside of those jurisdictions? Do you think that they're going to find it just that little bit harder to get funding? Or do the big institutions and funds not mind, and they're really just concerned about, the bottom line?
Well, the coal-based ferronickel projects in general are going to really struggle here because, not only, on an economics perspective, you're now competing against these massive facilities that are being built in Indonesia. So your project itself is at a disadvantage scale-wise to these businesses. If you're using coal in the rest of the world to generate your nickel, again, if the Indonesians are going to dominate the Chinese market and you're left supplying your product to the rest of the world, are you going to have a market there when you either have to start paying for the carbon that you're generating, or whether people will say no, as long as I have an alternative that's zero or lower carbon, then I'm not interested. There are ferronickel projects, that do have, access to hydroelectric power or access to natural gas. So those obviously have a much lower environmental footprint than the coal-based powers. But again, those are the kind of design choices people are going to have to make in terms of the projects that they choose to fund going forward.
So who gets financed first, sulfide projects or laterite projects?
Oh, I think, sulfide projects that again have, particularly the ones that have the benefits that we do at Crawford, where you have these rocks that do absorb CO2. And again, I encourage people, there's a whole pile of research on carbon sequestration using serpentine rock-based systems. They're actually looking at injecting CO2 into solid rock as opposed to just using the tailings and the waste rock that are left over. So, it's a real solution. And so again, I think increasingly as we move forward here, there's going to be much more capital available to those projects, that are able to deliver a zero carbon or low carbon versus, those projects that generate 90 tons of carbon for every ton of nickel that gets produced.
But what are you trying to do here? Because you not only have announced a wholly owned subsidiary, NetZero Metals, but you're also applied for trademarks. Are you trying to get investors more aware of specific issues, or as I say, is this just for your own benefit, or is it industry wide? I mean, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I know. I mean, again, we've been talking now about carbon for several decades, and several decades in, industry still hasn't managed to do it. If you look at most of the larger resource companies, they've got by 2050, we're going to be, net carbon neutral. That's 30 years from now, and that's a lot of carbon between, now and then. And, this year we, changed all the light bulbs in the office to be, LED lights, but fundamentally they're making iron ore and coal that go to make steel that are going to generate several tons of carbon for every, ton of product that they're shipping out. So, I think it's time for those large companies to look themselves in the face and say, okay, how do we as an industry, find end-to-end solutions to be able to deliver zero carbon production? Again, we're talking, we are going to look to build downstream facilities, in the area next to this mine, because again, the off gas from these processing plants is the issue, and we'll have an ability to take that off gas and route it through, the tailings and waste rock and make that carbon issue disappear. Other companies should be thinking about that and should be able to do, should be looking for those opportunities to do it, as opposed to, we're going to get to it in 20 or 30 years.
So, I mean, have you got any other supporters here? Because I suspect, the BlackRock Fidelities of this world who are, changing their investment criteria would be interested if they understood this. Are you going to, take this forward? Are you going to be the champion for this topic? Is NetZero?
Yeah, one of the things we talk about in the release is leadership changes. So again, we really are, want to target, mining. It's about getting the right people. It's about finding the right deposits, and it's about competing for capital in a way that allows you to have sort of, quote, the best capital and the lowest cost capital, the most patient capital, and so forth. So, if this initiative allows us to tap into a much broader range of network to be able to get those type of investors. And again, you're going to see changes, at our board level, where we're going to start to bring in people who have those types of relationships and who have that kind of experience, so that, again, we really are going to take this as a new concept to a much broader audience. And again, hopefully win versus, the other competing mining projects in the space.
Why do you see it as positive? Isn't this going to be distracting for your main task, which is to get your project up and running?
No, but again, from a mining perspective, it's about getting the right people, B, getting the right asset, and C, getting the right capital. You need to focus on all three. Too many mining companies just get caught up in the technical and not really focus enough on the people and on the capital part of it. I mean, that's again, I would encourage people to listen to Tesla's last conference call, because every topic they came to, it was around talent. We need more of these type of people. We need more of these type of people. If you're an entrepreneurial actuary, we want you to come help us build an insurance business. So, that's the kind of mindset that we need to have. That's, this is a stake in the ground in terms of this is going to be a major thrust of where we're headed. We've trademarked these terms because we're first, they don't exist today. And then, in terms of creating a separate entity, because again, I've been talking to the people in the EV chain now for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's clear, two fronts. One, they're not as interested in deploying capital to the mining side of the business, but, oh boy, do they want as much nickel and cobalt as you can produce, and preferably, double and quadruple your production as quickly as possible, please. And we'll build a processing, we'll help you build a processing plant, and we'll, promise to buy everything you produce. So, by creating a separate subsidiary right out of the gate, it makes it a much easier conversation, simpler conversation to get those companies, into that specific entity. The other fundamental piece of this, and again, so many companies to date have got this so wrong, is when the auto industry wants to make the lowest cost product possible. That Elon Musk makes it very clear that's how they're going to win. And so you need to look from an end-to-end perspective of what's the lowest cost way to get a chunk of nickel out of the ground and into a battery that isn't a Tesla and the other, 18 large automakers who are going to be, are betting the farm now on the electrification of cars. And so when you look at that, the key is you take a nickel intermediate that's as high grade, as clean as possible, and you dissolve it once, and then you basically keep it in one set of processes until it's like in a can that's ready to ship to a plant. These people who've built standalone sulfate plants are crazy, because you spend to take the sulfate, the nickel that's in solution, you spend a huge amount of energy to crystallize it, to make it and to put it in a bag or a drum, and then that bag or drum goes to a plant that starts to make batteries, and the first thing they do is dissolve it all. So again, I can spend 15 minutes on why that's not a good idea. So all of these companies that we had been talking to are very keen at basically putting as much of the one process under one roof, so they do everything once and only once until they get to a product that's the right thing to ship at that point in time.
That's hard to put together. I think what's even harder is getting the old boys in the industry to back something like this, because what you're proposing is potentially going to cost them billions and billions of dollars of infrastructure to get clean.
Oh, no. I mean, I mean, if you're making iron ore, it's like, well, okay, we just ship iron ore. That's our business. If it all ends up in China and China, pumps out billions of tons of CO2 in the process of making that, we're not going to build a steel plant next to a hydroelectric facility or with in a place where there's some solar or wind, so you have a chance of having cheap hydro available, or using natural gas involved in the reduction of it, or look at complete hydrogen reduction of that process, so that there's no carbon involved, and or strapping on some carbon capture at the end of that process, so that if there is carbon that's produced, that you're able to capture it, so it's not released to the environment.
Okay, well, it's exciting times, Mark. The whole NetZero initiative, I'm going to call it. I don't know what you're calling it internally. Exciting for you. It's definitely affected your thought process, and I think that may affect your ability to have conversations with different groups for sure. I'd love to sort of see the sorts of conversations that you're able to initiate, and where they get you in terms of the different types of funding available to you ahead of whether it be other sulfide projects or laterite projects going forward. So keep us in touch, stay in touch, and sort of keep us up to date with how things are moving along.
Yep, most definitely will.